Hi, Mama.
Good morning, Lizzie.
Welcome to another episode of today's yoga question. Really simple today. What is the goal of yoga?
The question is simple, but the answer is complex. So you have the easy job. I want your job. I think what happens to us when we take up the practice of yoga is we first of all we have a goal, and we tend to stick to that goal. We want, in a most simple way, at least was true for me, I wanted to get, in some way, possess or have or know or own the next pose. I had ambition. And so I thought that yoga was just getting very flexible. And as I began to read about it, I discovered that it was a very deep well, that it was very broad, that it had a little bit to do with my physical health, but it had a lot more to do with my emotional and mental and spiritual health. And so as I opened up, as I became a bigger container, it it changed for me. There was a story from the Vedas about a village that was suffering a drought. And one day some wagons full of water came in to relieve the drought and give people drinking water. And the announcement was, bring a container and we will give you water. Some people came with a cup and some came with a barrel. And I think in the beginning, I came with a cup. My goal was narrow. And then as I practiced over time, the goal not only shifted, but it got broader. So if I may continue, now what I would say from this perspective is that the goal, quote unquote, of yoga is to be happy. And I don't mean that in, oh my God, I just got a diamond ring, I'm happy. Or I just accomplished X, or was given this possession, or something that you could measure from the outside. But the goal of yoga for me now is simply to be happy. I used to say to my students, forget enlightenment, go for happiness. But the happiness I mean is one that comes not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And it's not so easily touched by not getting what I want, or being in a bad mood, or losing one of my favorite earrings. I don't know why the universe does that. I would rather lose both. Losing one earring is especially frustrating because when you finally give up on that earring and no longer have it, you find the one you lost 2 years ago. So, but happiness is something that arises in us, and I guess we could liken it to the niyama of santosha. Contentment to me is not a word that implies or connotes I'm getting everything I want. Because if you have a time in your life when everything is going well, at least for me, sometimes I don't completely trust that. And then I cling to that. And so even though I have all my ducks in a row, my life is quote unquote going well, and I think I'm happy, I'm not really happy if that happiness is disturbed by something going wrong, like locking myself out of my car, or. So one of the ways I look at the practices of yoga that we learn from Patanjali is the yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, those well-known, it's called Ashtanga, meaning eight-limbed, not the Ashtanga yoga of Pattabhi Jois fame. The Ashtanga yoga of Patanjali is the eight limbs, and Santosha's and Niyama, and it's my favorite one, this contentment, to be a bigger container within which to be content. And contentment is not reacting to getting what you want or not getting what you want. It's just being with it. So I look at the whole Ashtanga yoga now not as proscriptive, this is what you need to do, but as descriptive of what a person, how a person acts who is in a state of yoga, who is the yoga. That if we looked at a person we could describe and who we felt was integrated, and we described their way of living, it would be the Ashtanga yoga.
I like that. Well, I wanted to go back to something you said, spiritual health. I wondered if you could elaborate a little bit for us.
Well, there's a word in the Yoga Sutra, avidya, Avidya, and it's one of the kleshas, which is one of the obstacles, and it's the one in which all the others live or have their birth, the other four kleshas. And avidya is not, vid, seeing with the inner eye, and ya, actively doing it. So it's translated as ignorance, which is a very poor translation in English. What it actually literally means is actively being in the state of not seeing the true nature of reality. So it's not something that just happens to us. It's something we're participating in doing to ourselves. Identifying with what our ego, which is a functioning part of our psychology and our emotion and our psychological structure, not a bad thing. We need an ego to keep us from walking in front of a truck because we feel at one with the truck. So, because ego is basically a separating function, a delineating function, so of the personality. So, avidya means we believe the ego's view of reality. And we don't see the wider picture. There's a story from India about a disciple who goes to see his guru. And the guru says, I'm directly connected to God. So fill in another word if you want. Consciousness, the universe, the wholeness of all that is. He said, I'm directly connected to God. And the shishya, the disciple, goes home and ponders that overnight. And he comes back perturbed the next day and says to his guru, Guruji, isn't it egotistical to say that you're directly connected to God? And the guru says, it's egotistical to say you're not. So what the wholeness of yoga is a shift in perception. Again, I liken it to that larger container. So you still have functioning ego, you still have all your beliefs and all your ups and downs, but you're not bothered by them. Say, oh, well, there's a thought of jealousy. And you don't believe it, you don't dance with it in the same way, and so you don't disturb your innate unruffled happiness. What was the question again?
That's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Mama.
Namaste. May we live like the lotus at home in this muddy, muddy water of the world.
Yes. Thank you, dear listener. If you like what you heard, I hope you'll join us and study online on our new platform, www.lassiter.yoga. There's lots of free trials and wonderful learning to be had over there. Bye, Mama.
Bye, Lizzie.